Hi, this is Tracy Taylor with the Wasatch Taxpayers Association. We're doing the Heber City Council election interviews. And if you'd like more information on the Wasatch Taxpayers Association, go to wasatchtaxpayersassociation.com. The videos will be up there and more information, so please join us. Today we have Scott Phillips. He's running for Heber City Council. And Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Love to. Scott Phillips, my wife's Christy Phillips. We have 3 kids. Moved here in 2006. Started construction in our house 2005. Moved in 2006. Didn't have any kids at the time. All 3 kids have grown up in Heber. We chose to live here. Both Christy and I originally were born in Colorado and lived there in our younger years, but chose to move to Heber just because of how wonderful it is here. We love the mountains, we love the lakes, we love everything about Heber, especially the people, and that's really why I chose to run for City Council. I love this community, I love being a part of the community. I've served in several different capacities, been a member of the Heber Valley Rotary almost since day one when we moved in. I was the president in 2011. I serve currently on the trustee board for the hospital, Board of Adjustments for Heber City, the airport board, and board member of the Wasatch Community Foundation. And I've been with the Wasatch Community Foundation for 12 years. I ran the golf tournament, which raised money for the scholarship program, for 10 years, and have just loved being involved. I love being involved, and I just feel it's time to give back, it's time to serve, and this is the next step for me.
And so, what do you do for a living?
For a living, I'm a financial advisor, and actually started my practice when we moved to Heber. I have 2 offices, one in Park City and one in Salt Lake City. I also work from home occasionally, but I'm a financial advisor for corporations, individuals, manage money.
So are you currently on the airport board?
I'm currently on the airport board.
When was the last time you met as an airport board?
Oh, actually, I missed the last meeting, but it was I think 6 weeks ago.
Oh, it was 6 weeks ago, and then...
I'm pretty sure. It wasn't very long ago, but I was out of town for that meeting.
And then before that, I kind of heard you haven't been meeting as much this past year.
Well, I only started this year, and we've
okay.
had 2 meetings since I started.
Okay, okay.
But I am a pilot.
Okay, well great. This question's for you then.
Yes.
Should we expand the Heber City Airport?
Absolutely not.
And why?
Expand means to grow. The footprint of the airport is going to be the footprint of the airport. And I haven't heard anybody say the footprint of the airport is actually going to grow. So the current land the airport's on is not going to expand. There's no way we can eminent domain Daniel, for example, to expand the runway. There's no way to do that. What does need to happen is make the airport safe. And just like a highway that needs to be expanded for width, like Center Street, for example. Center Street was expanded width-wise because there was more traffic. Well, the airport has more and larger traffic now. The runway needs to be expanded. And a lot of that isn't really up to the city. I mean, we have to comply with the FAA rules and guidelines. But being a pilot and seeing the airport and what actually happens and takes place there, for example, on Hangar Row, those are the hangars that you can see from the highway that go all the way down the side of the taxiway. If there's a plane parked out on Hangar Row, let's say someone pulling their plane out and a jet comes by to pass it, there's no room for that to happen. And it's dangerous. They have to go over, a lot of these jets are riding the pavement, wheels almost in the mud to get around, and that's stuff that needs to change.
Well, so those are C2 airplanes that can't make it around, correct?
Those would be C2 airplanes.
So people, 90% of our population does not want a C2 airport. So I get you're saying you don't want to expand, but then in the same breath you said, but we need to make it safe, which
yeah.
I would argue it's safe right now. So.
Well, the FAA argues against you. And I know that they've said pretty strong language to the effect of coming after the city if they don't comply. The legal fees alone.
Where did you hear that? Where did you hear that they would be coming after us?
Well, it's in the documents that they're being provided. The FAA, if we don't comply with So the airplanes that land here, if an airplane can land at an airport and it's a public airport, the airport needs to be made safe for that airplane. If you take federal money. If we want to pay back all the federal money, we can have whatever airport we want.
Well, actually, all the money we've taken in the last 20 years has been to maintain a B2 airport. It's not been to expand to a C2.
Correct, but if you take federal money and you're a public airport and C2 airplanes want to land at your facility, and they can land safely, which they can, you have to be able to accommodate that.
So they're landing safely.
Oh yeah, they're landing safely.
So we're safe right now.
But
We don't need to expand it.
We're still out of compliance though. So if there is an incident at the Heber Valley Airport, the lawsuits alone could just drown the city. And I don't think the taxpayers want to be left on the hook for that either.
The
Because I do have a
master
friend-
plan here, and I've read it before, but I'm going to read it again. Chapter 8 of the master plan, section 801, it says general. It says, in some cases, the airport sponsor, which is the city, may decide that it is in the community's best interest for the airport not to continue to grow to accommodate forecast activity, or to accommodate forecast activity only up to a point. In these cases, the master plan should document this decision and indicate the probable consequences of this decision, which is demand will be capped, the demand will go unmet, or the demand will be diverted to another airport. That is a section of the master plan that gives the city the option to say no. And considering we have Provo and Salt Lake Airport within 40 minutes of us, there are other airports that they can be diverted to. So my question to you again is, this should be a city council vote. And this is the most important issue people are talking about. If you have to vote on whether to go to a C2 airport, is that going to be a yes or no vote?
I'd say yes.
Okay.
And I would say yes, and there's a couple other things with this. How many people are employed by folks who have jets parked in Heber, in the Heber Valley? Hundreds. There's companies that have chosen to base their stuff here because they have access to the airport. So there is a very good economical reason to have the airport here. I can't say if those individuals would move their operations or not if there wasn't one, but I know that it makes their business able to do here in Heber. But the Heber Airport is a great amenity to the valley. I know we have some noise and pollution. There are byproducts of that, but cars produce pollution, so it's a form of transportation, and I think we need to make it accessible and make it safe.
Okay, well, I appreciate your
But
candor and your answer.
Expand the airport? Absolutely not. But make it safe in a C2? Yes, but that's not expansion.
Okay, we won't argue semantics at this point, but I appreciate your
It's not
candor
making
on
it
this.
bigger.
Okay. The bypass.
Yes.
Are you for a bypass? Since we
Absolutely.
don't know you very well, and we
Yeah,
haven't had this discussion
Well,
before, what do you think about the bypass and where it should go? Let's.
Yeah, since we moved here, have known the route of the bypass. I mean, it's been known for 20 plus years where they were hoping that it would go. I'm not sure what UDOT's going to come back with their master plan stuff that they are doing right now, the studies. But it makes sense to go through kind of where the Northfields area is, come around Southfield Road. I think it makes more sense to come straight out to 189, not make that turn up by Walmart. That's not my decision. But absolutely we need a bypass. It would be great if we could have a walking Main Street with trees, with parking. I was standing outside of a business the other day talking to a business owner. I couldn't even hear him. It was so loud. There were so many trucks passing. I would love to have a Main Street that we could be proud of. That would really set us apart in Utah. I don't know how many cities in Utah have the highway go right down their Main Street, where we have an opportunity still within the next few years before there's too much development to reroute it around. And I think we need to take that opportunity and make it good, make it awesome, make berms, trees, disguise it as much as we can while we can, before we just have to try to fit it someplace and be reactive. I still think we have time to be active instead of reactive.
A lot of citizens are concerned about unmanaged growth. And we just did a master plan
Yep.
that we took 2 years to do. The public supposedly has spoken what they felt was a priority. And in the last 2 years of that being done and developments coming into the city, there has been a lot more density approved than what the current code requires or allows. So a lot of citizens want to know, are you going to stick to the current codes in the city of what is allowed density-wise? Or are you going to allow developers to get more density than what the master plan says and what the codes allow at this point? Because we're way ahead of our trajectory right now on density than even what the master plan said was going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think the master plan is awesome, and I will follow that to the T as much as possible by the law. Also, I think my record on the Board of Adjustment shows that I don't make, or I really don't make exceptions where the law states otherwise. So if density laws and things are set in place, I will follow that to the letter. One thing to speak of with density, though, is when we're looking at improvements, city improvements, gutter, road upkeep, sewer, things that have to be replaced, density does make sense because it's more people paying for that service or whatever it is. If we have to replace all of the sewer pipes and water pipes in that downtown core area, it makes sense to have a little bit more density to pay for it than just 3 houses per acre, which is currently kind of what we have in the downtown area, because you have the houses along the streets, but the inside of that block is all open space, kind of the backyards. And I know there's that overlay zone as part of the master plan in the first couple blocks of Main Street. But if you put in, townhouses, for example, or something where it's basically the same type of frontage on the road, and we can fill in the back with some parking or whatever it is, but adding in some density gets more people to pay for the same cost.
And what I'm talking about are these new developers coming in with farmland that they get to develop.
Right.
And they're being awarded higher densities than even the code says.
Well, and as far as the master plan is concerned and the code, I would follow the master plan of how it's laid out and the code of density, unless there's something else that changes.
Can you give us an example, and you don't have to talk specifically about the issue that you dealt with the Board of Adjustments, but can you give us an idea of what the situation was and what they were asking for and how you voted to follow that code?
I do know an example. It was a local business that wanted to come and get a reader board sign that was larger than is approved or by the code. And right in the code it says that we should discourage reader board signs as part of what we do. And I know the owners of the business, they're friends of mine, I said I really can't make this change because the code is telling me, first of all, that it's not allowed and that it's discouraged. So how can I grant a variance for that?
Was there a density issue that came up in Board of Adjustment where you could say you held anybody to the allowed density and you did not approve any kind of extra density?
That didn't come up to us.
Yeah.
No, I think usually Planning Commission takes care of those issues.
Yeah.
We did add parking spaces though.
Mm-hmm.
More parking was allowed.
How do you feel about the resort corner up on the Highway 40? North Village, but we specifically call that southwest corridor of River Road and 40, the resort corner. Would you allow higher density than what the county approved in their old code? They could still go to the county. They don't have to get developed in the city.
Well, yeah, they could go to the county. what I'm seeing with that whole corridor and up through Mayflower is, it's heartache to any of us that have lived here for any period of time to see the growth that's happening. When you drive from Mayflower up to Park City and up around towards Toohey in that direction, and you see the big box lumber store and all of the townhomes that are over on the other side of Jordanelle, just like, oh, this used to be a field, right? But I think with the Mayflower development that's kept coming in, it's going to be beautiful, world class. I mean, that is a ski resort base area, and to have that close to Heber City is a gift. Now, coming down towards the North Fields area, the North Village, I know part of the master plan has that already in it with a lot of red dots showing density. As far as the increase of density coming into the city, I don't really know what's all behind that. And the county versus the city and what density they're allowing. I would say if it's going to be developed, let's develop it well. And if we can do that with more density, great, because there's going to be opportunities, economic opportunities to participate with the base village that's being built up at the Mayflower.
Okay.
I mean, that whole region is just going to has an opportunity to be really awesome.
Can you talk about any issues that you feel are important that if you got on the city council you would like to work on and to develop an awareness that you think maybe somebody hasn't dealt or even thought of this issue and you'd like to make sure it gets brought to the city and acknowledged and worked on?
Well, I guess this plays into what you were asking me before about density, because and if it comes into the city or the county, the North Village has its own special service district, which water is very interesting to me, because I think eventually our growth will be capped by the amount of water we have. And I do know that the city allows units to be built with less water than the Jordanelle Special Service District, for example. But developers have to bring water to be able to develop. Like Independence, for example, hasn't been developed because they don't have the water to do that. We're going to have to really work and be creative with water to see what we're able to do, but also know, especially right now in a drought, that it's a limited resource. So water is very interesting to me. Safety, we've had a lot of accidents on 189 and 40 this year. We need to work on our safety. I mean, driving across Main Street right now is basically taking your life in your own hands. Even if you're trying to make a left turn, it's amazing to me how many people use the left turn lane to accelerate. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but maybe someone pulls out in front of you into the left turn lane, and then you take the next window, and you are actually passing them because you're not supposed to go in the left turn lane. You're supposed to go into traffic. There's a lot of spaces there where we can improve. It would be great to have a light at 10th South. So there's some different projects in there that I've been tossing around in my mind. Public safety, water, the things that are really coming down the pipe in the future.
There was a comment that the mayor brought up just before your interview that we were talking about how to relieve the taxes of Heber City residents, that Heber City pays for certain things and they also pay for county things too. Mm-hmm. For instance, we pay for Heber City Police and we also pay for Wasatch County Sheriff. Would you be willing to look into analyzing whether consolidation of the police department with the county sheriff's department would be feasible and would be more economical for everyone in Wasatch County?
Yeah.
Because if Heber City's paying less and not supporting their own police department, that gives more money to the county people so that they will pay less for their services as well.
Well, and running this campaign, you realize how many people live in the county and how many live in the city, how many are business owners that live in the county, that own property in the city. The city and the county have to get along better, and that's definitely a goal that I have, and I think it would be part of that, is policing. I would be totally for being able to unify that if we could, to save money, but it just goes along with the county and the city working better together, and the school district. If we can get the school district, the county, the city to all start to be more on the same page, to work together instead of maybe always kind of trying to fight each other a little bit, that would be a
And
good
so,
thing.
where does the citizenry fall into that little diagram you just presented between the public officials? Because I believe there's a lot of citizens that showed up for a master plan, spent a lot of their time giving their input, and even showing up to meetings in the last 2 years on issues and being very vocal, and they haven't been listened to. So
Yeah.
where does the citizenry fall into where we put a school? Whether Heber City annexes land for a school that the citizens don't want. How does the
Well-
citizenry get to have a say in what happens in their community?
They definitely spoke about the school bond by voting, didn't they? So,
Well,
they're-
it's going to be a discussion moving forward too. And so it's like, look, I totally agree with you. The county, the city, all the entities need to work better together.
Yep.
But the citizens are feeling left out of a lot of the discussions. And I think that's what we're trying to do in the community as the Wasatch Taxpayers Association, is just to get that dialogue going, and that you honor what the citizens want for their community. How do you feel you could be good at doing that?
And that's a tough question, because I do know that from Facebook and other means of communication that there are some voices that are very strong and very loud, but it doesn't represent the majority of the citizens. So it's hard to accept through a vote, to know really where we want to head in certain directions with things.
So we had a vote on
On the school board.
school.
Yeah.
You know how people feel about it.
Yep.
So that's a good indication of how to move forward. But I'm saying honor those votes that were
Exactly.
taken.
You got to honor the votes. It's kind
And
of
the
like,
propositions that have been done in the last 10 years in Wasatch County about certain issues.
Right.
There have been propositions. So, those are honest votes that were given by voters. And so,
well, recently you had the vote too for open space, and that passed overwhelmingly. So we know that people want open space, right? So I think.
and they're
public
very
officials-
sensitive about the Northfields.
Yes, and in 2007, and maybe we were there together, but there was a meeting at the university. It was the Vision 2020 planning.
Yeah,
Remember that?
I do remember that. That was a
And-
long time ago.
And we sat there, and all of us said 100%, we have to protect the Northfields. And I don't think that's ever diminished. The R20 zoning, at one point it was being contemplated to change that by the county council, and they weren't able to do that. We need to protect those Northfields, and that the view corridor and the agriculture aspect of Heber Valley, that's what makes this place amazing.
And that's why that resort corner is very sensitive to a lot of people, because that is the entry corridor into the Northfields and our view corridor. So there's my little plug for all the folks that you've seen on Facebook talking about that corner and how sensitive they are to that corner. So thank you. But that's what I look forward to in the future, is the city council working with all the entities and the citizens together.
And I think we're getting there. I think we're getting to a place where the council is willing to listen more than they ever have before.
Well, tell the folks where they can reach you, and
Sure.
if you have a website, whatever, and tell them why they should vote for you.
My website's dscottphillips.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which I've never been on Twitter before, so this is new for me. But vote for me, because I really do care. I don't have any, there's nothing that I am gaining from this other than being on the council. I don't have any conflicts of interest. I'm not building a property somewhere on Main Street or anything like that. So I just am in this because I care about the community. I love this place. I want to live here for the next 50 years. And I really think a lot of these things we're going to do can be really, really great. So please vote for me.
Great. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.